information session about funding opportunities for study abroad, field research, and foreign language learning. My name is Lenny Ureña Valerio. I'm the Associate Director for Program Development in the Latin American Iberian Institute. And this is something that the LAII, as we call our institute, puts together in collaboration with the Global Education Office and now the Honors College every year during International Week. And today we're going to provide an overview of mostly external funding. I'm joined by Jessie Wieland, who is the Director of the Center for Academic Excellence and Leadership Development, and also Todd Karr, who is the Director of Education Abroad at GEO. And so Jessie will present first, then Todd, and then I'll present last. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Let me pull this up really quickly. So with the Center for Academic Excellence and Leadership Development, one of the primary responsibilities that we have is helping all of you not just find and identify these fellowships, these opportunities to engage in research, international experiences, etc., but to help you apply to them as well. Now, our office works with many different fellowships and awards, domestic opportunities and international experiences, but one of the primary ones that I'm going to highlight today is the Fulbright U.S. Student Program. And so this specific scholarship is for rising seniors, graduate students, both master's and doctoral programs, and later on there are scholar programs if, say, you plan on becoming faculty in the future or teaching in the future. But for 95% of the students that I'm working with, they are applying the summer prior to their senior year or their final year at university. So one of the primary eligibility requirements for the Fulbright program is that you have to have your bachelor's degree in hand before you start your experience abroad. And we start recruiting for this pretty heavily in the spring semester. And so what you'll find with some of these fellowships that our office works with, if you give yourself like a solid month to work on the essays and the components, you're going to be fine. Fulbright is not that. And this is both from personal experience in applying to Fulbright years ago and from working with students for the past 10 years on Fulbright applications. If you are not planning on a Fulbright application at least 6 to 8 months in advance and giving yourself at least 2 to 4 months to really write and work on the application, you're going to find that it is incredibly challenging to put all of this together. So for right now, the reason I have the Fulbright website pulled up is like all I ask my students to do that are interested in this is to start scrolling through the website. The bad news is it's incredibly dense, but the good news is that it's all good information and material that you have to comb through. And so for some students, the easiest place to start is searching by country. Some students have a very specific region of the world that they're specializing in or a very specific language that they are studying. Other students is maybe more so tailored to their field of study. Like what I'm studying could be malleable and adaptable to multiple different places and location, but I'm not willing to sacrifice my research topic. And so wherever you fall in that spectrum is absolutely fine, but as you're going through these different countries and different opportunities, you're going to find that they have similar programs, but within those programs there's incredible nuance. Now, often the way that these can be broken down for Fulbright are these English teaching assistantships or these ETAs or the Open Study Awards. Now, about, I would say 75%, 80% of the students that I work with are either applying to one of those two categories. But even from there, we have creative art Fulbrights. You'll find that some countries, let me see if I can find, I have to zoom in a little bit to try to find Austria. Let's see. Okay, here we go. But then you're going to find other countries that have very specific, unique programs to their country. Sometimes these will be specific to a field of study. Sometimes they'll be specific to a certain population that you may be working with. It really depends. And so that's why it's like you may have like your, like for example, I have students that, study German. And they're like, well, I'm just going to look at Germany. But they don't quite consider some of the surrounding countries like Austria and a few others where it's like their German skills will be incredibly useful, and maybe as they're reading through the program, it's like, well, okay, well actually my background, my experience, my studies is actually a better fit for what Austria offers than what Germany offers. So my point is, be flexible, go through and read the details, and then if you have questions, come in and talk with me. So once we've identified the fellowship, the country or the program that is most important to you, the one that you want to apply to, because you can only apply to one, well then our meetings become either weekly or bi-weekly, going through your essay and your written materials, helping you navigate the letters of recommendation that you're going to need for this award. You're going to need 3. And then often the most challenging aspect for, rising seniors or graduate students is the affiliation letter that you need if you're applying for one of the research grants or one of the graduate study grants. So that Open Study Award, I should have mentioned, it's both for a year of research abroad or it's for a 1-year master's degree, or maybe the first year of a PhD program where you would receive funding, financial support, and oftentimes housing. But for those academic awards, like I said, you do need a letter of affiliation that comes from an academic most often, but a professional in country that can speak to your qualifications, your readiness for this program. And that relationship takes time to develop for many students. And so we want to make sure that we're talking to your recommenders and we're reaching out to these potential affiliates well in advance. And again, I'm here as a resource to help you manage all of that. Now, another new challenging aspect of the Fulbright program is that they have updated their essays, their prompts, and the long story short is that they have significantly reduced what you're able to write in these applications. And so it's made the application, at least from this past cycle, which was our first cycle with these new prompts, more challenging than it has been in prior years. And so again, just to reemphasize, is to start working with us as soon as possible, because now it's only about for these academic grants, you used to have 2 full pages to be able to write your project proposal. Now you have just over 1 page to do that, so brevity is key. And they've removed the personal statement that used to be 1 page. That's now been broken down into a few shorter essays, so we have to navigate it a little bit differently, but it is still absolutely manageable. Now, I don't want to take up too much time, so I think we'll have time for questions at the end, but I'm happy to explore this site and show you some of the resources later, and of course be available for any questions. But if your studies and if the goals that you have really lie in this international sector, if there is language proficiency that you know that you need to develop, or cultural knowledge that you need to develop prior to your graduate studies or prior to your professional career, there are few programs that I can name that are as compelling and engaging and immersive as the Fulbright program. And so I would highly encourage any student that is interested in these fields and these topics to apply as a rising senior. And one of the other benefits, and the last thing I'll at least touch on for right now, is from the time that I've worked with Fulbright applicants, I would love to connect you with any of the alumni that I've personally worked with who have studied abroad, and the same goes for our colleagues that are here today. But there are also additional resources that you can access, like for these alumni ambassadors, for example, who are with Fulbright to share their experience to help educate and also connect you to some of the resources that they still have in country. And so maybe better than some other fellowships, Fulbright is an incredibly communal and supportive community where all of the alumni that I have experienced or communicated with are highly invested in supporting that next class of students that are coming through. And so this is absolutely something that you do not need to apply to alone. But I'll stop there for right now, turn it over to, I believe Lenny's next, or Todd's next. Okay, yeah, can you wrap up? Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to Lenny and LAII for letting me come out and chat a bit. I'm going to be chatting about a couple different programs, the Critical Language Scholarship, the Boren Awards, the Freeman Asia, and just a very brief comment about study abroad funding through the University of New Mexico. A lot of what Jesse's already said is transferable to these first three. The application processes are pretty much the same. Both Jesse and myself and other colleagues on campus are here to assist you, so you're definitely not alone in working through any of these grant programs. They all require essays, they all require some different kinds of background and some research, and just kind of depending on what direction you go, the focus is going to be slightly different. So first, very quickly, the CLS, the Critical Language Scholarship, is a grant program that focuses on languages that are deemed critical for national security by the U.S. Department of State and various other entities. There are a lot of similarities with the CLS and the Boren grant. They're both focused on language acquisition. I don't necessarily want to bore you with all the backgrounds and history, but I think it's really the 2 points I always bring up. It's to help prepare students for a globalized workforce, and it's also funded by the U.S. government. And so they do have some very specific parameters and very specific languages that they like to focus on. So these are the languages that they do have available for you to study through CLS. And you'll notice here that if you want to go Hindi or Persian or Swahili, you can do that without any prior training, which works great because with the exception of Portuguese, we don't teach any of those languages here at UNM. Arabic, Mandarin, and Russian we do teach here at UNM. Right now we do not currently have an active Korean language program, but as we were speaking earlier, there are certain resources within the community. There are some Korean language schools in Albuquerque. There's a fairly large expat community here from South Korea. If you are interested in Korea, later today we will have a presentation on U.S. and South Korean relations and a movie tonight hosted by the Consul General of Korea. And then Japanese, 2 years worth of study in Japanese. We have a very robust Japanese language program here at UNM. So for the most part, you're going to be able to fill most of these requirements. And the 1 year of study, I personally think there's a little bit of flexibility in there. It's not necessarily formal study. So if you get in with the Korean language program here in Albuquerque or an online program, that's something that you can use towards your application. So general eligibility, you have to be a U.S. citizen or a U.S. national. You have to be in a degree-seeking program at a U.S. institution, but not necessarily a degree program in the language. So you could be an engineer, you could be a mathematician, a teacher, a nurse, whatever it might be. Their focus is on language acquisition. So you can tie that language study into whatever degree program you're looking at. And then they also have 2 different tracks for undergraduate and graduate, and you are eligible if you're graduating. So a lot of times, I get a lot of students that are coming to me like, I'm graduating in May, I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. And so this is an opportunity for a lot of students to kind of look into that. The really nice thing about CLS is it is basically a formalized study abroad program. So it follows a lot of the same parameters of some of the study abroad exchanges that we have, some of the direct enrollments, but they are hand-selected by the CLS program. They are credited through a U.S. University, so the credits that you do receive on the program can transfer back. But unlike the Boren, who basically lets you go anywhere you want, or the Freeman Asia, which allows you to go to any exchange program, direct enroll program, they have a specific set of language schools programs that they want you to work with. So if you would like more information, CLS has a really nice website. You can scan the code there. Applications have already passed. The deadline was 2 days ago. So we are looking forward to 2027. They should launch in October, and they get about a month to get that application submitted. But again, you can go to the website. I say YouTube, social media, like you will find people posting videos about CLS, how to go about the application. We can talk to you about previous essays and how to write it. We're there to bounce ideas off of. We've both been involved in those processes. So, just quickly, Boren, very, very similar. One of the big differences with Boren, though, is that they have a service component after graduation. So, if you receive the Boren, you do have to find a position within the federal government for at least 1 year. So that's one requirement. Now CLS has like a service, like a project that you would do, but this is a little bit more serious. This is associated with the military, Department of State, Department of Agriculture. You can go to the Peace Corps. There is a broad spectrum of employment. Now it doesn't guarantee you a job with the U.S. government, but it does kind of help. Like it kind of guides you, and you say you're born, that's going to help the application process. Very similar in the sense that it has a number of languages. It has a much broader list of languages. It also includes Spanish, which is kind of a relatively, it's kind of newish. They're kind of bringing it back. So I know for a lot of New Mexicans that might be something of interest, but they are requiring a significantly near fluent requirement with Spanish language, whereas this next list that you'll see with the languages, you really don't have to have a background in any of these. Portuguese helps, Spanish definitely, but most of these you're not going to find here at UNM. You're not really going to find them at many U.S. institutions. I can think of a handful that are going to be teaching some of these. French, they are focusing on African, the African continent, French in Africa, several indigenous languages. You'll see Japanese, you'll see Korean, you'll see some of the more familiar ones, but a lot of Eastern European, a lot of South Asian languages that you might want to look into for that. These are their preferences for the field of study. You don't have to be in these. They love STEM. STEM is the one where you actually get a little bit of a break on the Spanish language. So if you are not near fluent in Spanish, but you're an engineering or chemistry major, they will lower that Spanish language requirement for you. If you're going to be doing any of those other languages, it's kind of a free-for-all in regards to what your degree program is. But this is not an exhaustive list. Again, you can be of any academic background and apply for the Boren program. These are the amounts that they are awarding. So if you look at the fellowship, which is graduate, the scholarship is for undergraduate, it's going to give you an idea of how much funding. One thing to kind of keep in mind with some of these funding options is, depending on the program, CLS Boren, like if you get a lot of other funding to study abroad, like you are here on like the Regis grant, you get like a full ride, like it kind of ebb and flows the amount. But for the most part, students are getting, if you're doing an academic year, which is 25 some weeks, you're going to get roughly a grant of $25,000. Again, this is all contingent upon your future employment with the federal government. If you choose not to work for the U.S. government after completion of your degree, they may ask for the money back. Now, there's a lot of flexibility with it. They do, again, they can't get you a job, but they will support you finding a job. If you have trouble getting a job, there's some extensions that we can work on and things of that nature. And again, this is what I was mentioning, the public service. Boren probably has the better website of the three programs that I'm mentioning as far as resources. You can go there, they will tell you what the questions are, they will tell you like PowerPoints, you can walk through it. Either Jesse or myself, we're happy to sit down and visit with you. I certainly read a lot last week because the deadline was coming up for CLS, so just kind of something that we're happy to be able to help out with. These are the deadlines. They are coming up fairly quickly, but you are eligible to get an application. One thing that I do mention about Boren, CLS, Freeman, Asia, is that I have been told by colleagues, because we are from New Mexico, our applicant pool tends to rise to the top a little bit easier. There's gonna be 1,000 students from California apply for any one of these. There's gonna be 10 from New Mexico. They are looking at regional diversity. And so that is something that they really like to focus on when they're looking at these applications. Again, you can go to their website. I can get this up. And then Freeman Asia, it's literally the same thing, but it's focused on East and Southeast Asia. So if you want to study any Asian, anywhere in Asia, it's not actually related to language, it's just studying in Asia. So it's very similar. They have an essay process. You can go to Japan, you can go to Korea, you can go to Thailand, wherever it might be. Our office is able to help identify programs. And what's different about this is since it's not geared specifically towards language learning, it's really geared towards folks that are interested in studying in Asia and have a financial need. So plane tickets are not cheap. Cost of living in Japan and Korea, not cheap. But those are something that they are willing to do. There's really not a lot of requirements to the Freeman Asia program. Same as the Boren CLS, you have to be a US citizen, and you have to go abroad for at least 8 weeks. So most of our summer programs are probably not gonna meet that if they're faculty led. If we do direct enroll, we can definitely do 8 weeks. And then this is another service project. When you get back, we can certainly help you out figuring out that service project. If you came to the Study Abroad Fair, one of our Gilman recipients, which I'm not necessarily mentioning today, but that is basically the same thing, but it's for Pell recipients. So you'll see a lot of similarities, and what I would tell a student, if you have a Pell Grant and you want to go study in Asia, you can apply for the Gilman, the Freeman Asia, the Boren, and the CLS. They're not going to give you money from everyone. They don't let you cherry, you basically get one of them. But you are eligible for all of those as an applicant. Let's see here, we have deadlines coming up in March and April. And then just very briefly, you'll find more information about all of these programs on our scholarship page. If you choose to study abroad, even if you don't apply for the Boren, the CLS, the Gilman, all of those good things, you're still eligible to use your own personal financial aid. So if you have a Pell Grant, an opportunity, a lottery grant, you are eligible to use those on any approved study abroad program. There's also study abroad grants through the foundation and through our office to help supplement the costs of your study abroad program. So if you do an exchange, you pay your UNM tuition like you normally do. If you have the opportunity in lottery, they pay off the tuition like they normally do. If you decide that you really, really want to go to Thailand where we don't have a direct exchange, we can get you into a school there. You pay that school the tuition. All of it travels with you. So, was that close to 10 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
So, were you going to speak now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you,
I
Todd.
am.
So I'm going to be talking about two funding opportunities that we have through the Latin American Iberian Institute. One is at the undergraduate level and the second one is at the graduate level. So lower stakes than what my colleagues have been talking to because these are internal funding. But it's a great opportunity for you to get the experience to be more competitive to then apply to these external grants that my colleagues were talking about. So the first one is the UISFL Field Research Awards for undergraduate students. These are funding that we received from the U.S. Department of Education, and it supports undergraduate students working with a UNM faculty member on an internationally based project. And preference is given to students working on research projects related to Africa, East Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America. Thanks to the funding from the U.S. Department of Education, we're able to broaden the opportunity to all these regions. Unfortunately, this year they terminated the funding, but they allow us to use funding that we had left from previous year to continue it until spring. Next year, we'll continue this opportunity for undergraduate students, but we need to limit it to Latin America. So you have the chance to apply this spring if you're interested in Africa, East Asia, or the Middle East. So what is the eligibility? It's open to any student here in any major. As I mentioned, you need to be working with a faculty member, and the faculty doesn't need to travel with you to the field, but they need to be responsible for your project, and they must register the trip through the Global Education Office as a faculty-led program, and that's how you're able to receive the funding. And also, this opportunity is also open to international students. As you heard before, many of these external grants are restricted to citizens or US national. This one is one that, if you're an international student, you can apply. We cap the awards at $1,000, but this is one of those awards that you can combine with any other type of funding at UNM. And actually, we encourage you to apply for other sources of funding, especially GEO. They do have a support for undergraduate students, and the deadline in the spring is in early March. Yeah.
We're flexible.
Just go to the GEO website and to get the exact deadline. And these are the expenses that we cover. You can use the funding for the airfare, which most people use it for. But we also cover in-country transportation, housing, per diem, and other research-related expenses, equipment, photocopies, books, etc. So we have two competitions. We had one in fall that the deadline was last week. And that competition is for anyone interested in going to the field between December of this year and April. And in the spring, we have another competition for students wanting to travel between May and August of 2026. And the deadline is March 25th. So please book it in your calendar. The second field research opportunity is the LAII Mellon Endowment Field Research Grant. And this opportunity supports graduate students doing early stage research in Latin America. For master students, that is getting support to write their thesis. And for PhD students, that means giving them funding to carry out pilot research. So the only restriction at the PhD level is that you have to be a PhD student and not a candidate. So you're going to the field maybe for the first time to try out your research question and establish networks in the field. So this opportunity also encourages students to gain exposure to the languages spoken in the area and to learn more about the field sites. And it's supposed to help students with future research. So once the PhD student is ready to carry out the full-fledged research for the dissertation, they already have established their networks in the region. And we only have one competition throughout the year for this opportunity, and the deadline is the same as the undergraduate field research award. And the eligibility is very similar. The only thing is that at the graduate level, we limit this opportunity to students carrying out research in a Spanish or Portuguese-speaking country in Latin America, because the fundings are internal and they're not provided by the U.S. Department of Education, so we have to limit it. And it's open to students in all disciplines, including professional programs. So students in law school, in business school, etc. And also international students are eligible to apply for this opportunity. And the other condition is that the research that you're carrying out must take place between 2 weeks and all the way to 4 months. So the minimum you can do is 2 weeks. So the expenses are very similar to the undergraduate opportunity, the same one. And the award is capped at $3,000. And again, it's one that we encourage students to apply funding throughout the university, especially the Office of Graduate Studies, and GEO, and not many graduate students know this, offer support for any international experience, and this will qualify as such. And I think they have a rolling deadline for that.
Graduates, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So here you can find more information about these two opportunities, and you are more than welcome to contact me if you want to schedule a meeting to discuss your interests. I can help you with your essay. I'll be more than happy to take a look at it and give you feedback, etc. Thank you.